Welcome to the Voice of Supply Chain, brought to you by ISM New Jersey and SourceDay. This is a show that takes place the third or fourth Wednesday of each month. The purpose of our show is to tell stories of people in procurement and supply chain doing extraordinary things. I am your show host, Sarah Scudder. I oversee marketing here at SourceDay. You can see our new neon bling bling sign in the back. We've been decorating and kind of building out a media room. So more coolness to come in the background for the next show. We automate purchase order changes and enable supplier communication for manufacturers, distributors, consumer packaged goods, brands, and retailers. If you want more women or more info about women in ERP or what's happening in the manufacturing world, feel free to bling bling sign in the back. We've been decorating and kind of building out a media room, so more coolness to. Or you can connect with follow my hashtags or connect with me at Women in ERP and Manufacturing Maven. Today, our guest is my friend Sneha. Her and I have been friends, I want to say almost 3 years now. Last time I was in Southern California at the end of last year attending the Sourcing Industry Group conference. She was my hiking buddy for half a day. So really, really excited to have her on here. And she's a little bit different in that she actually comes from direct spend and direct procurement. And I know a lot of our guests have been more on the indirect side. Our show is meant to be interactive, so do not be shy about sharing your thoughts in the chat and submitting questions anytime that you have for Sneha, and I'll make sure that we make time to get to those. So I'd love to kick us off by having you tell us in the comments where in the world you are joining us from and a word or phrase to describe how you are feeling today. So Sneha, with that, I always like to start off the interviews going way, way back to childhood days, because I think a lot of what happens to us as kids often shapes our career. So would like to have you start by sharing a favorite childhood memory.
Thank you so much for having me today. Thank you for this platform. I'm really very honored and super excited to share my personal journey. Haven't done that before, like have spoken a lot about work stuff, but not really personal. So yeah, so I lost my dad in 2017. So often in the past few years, my childhood memories are a lot about thinking about my good times with him. And I still vividly remember he used to have a bike, and I used to literally cling along him as a child and go to farmers market. And that was just me and my daddy moment. I have a brothers too, but that was just me with him. And going to that farmers market, and that fresh smell of fruits and vegetables around that, like kind of that's where my passion for this whole circular supply chain piece comes from, where I just felt so connected with nature and things around. But that's one of the memory that I still hold so close and so dear. I can literally sometimes like feel doing that some days in my dreams. Yeah.
What in your childhood shaped you to be the person that you are today?
I would say a lot of things that I saw as growing up with both my parents. So my dad had a transferable job, so we used to move states and cities a lot, and so something that came along with that move was change, and that changed that actually ended up with us moving cities. I had to change my school, I had to change friends, and of course cities, the way you live there around. So that experience typically has always prepared me to be more open to change. And that's exactly that I talk about a lot, where embrace change. It doesn't matter if it's on a personal level or a professional level, but embracing change is key. And especially like these days, things change in a blink of an eye, and so we can never be ready for anything. Like this pandemic, I don't think our generation was ready for this, but the best part that we could do is actually be equipped to manage change. But you can never plan for things such as pandemic. But yeah, change, embracing change, and um, never underestimating the power of persevering, and focusing on your goal was something that stayed with me since childhood.
What's a tradition you learned from your parents that you've continued on now that you're a mom?
I have to say being kind. So my mom has done a lot of. She is a teacher, so she owns a school now. But then because we were moving cities, so it was hard. But then, what she has taught me is literally being kind to people who need help. And they could come from diverse backgrounds, their needs could be different, but if you are capable of either extending help or connecting people to help them in any ways, big or small, it comes back to you. So I guess I know I am a very kind person. I know that's just innate to me, and I learned that a lot from my mom growing up, by what, like, her actions, by whatever she did for people around her, like teaching kids, for and they making time for them, and also sponsoring some of them was something that I hold close.
Who's the most influential person in your childhood and why?
Um, so I am biased, but I have to say, of course, like I'm speaking a lot about mom, but I've seen her being a strong lady that she is, and there were a lot of circumstances that were negative, and still being able to thrive. Like back in the days, I grew up in India, and I come from a smaller town where not a lot of women work, and there's a lot of prejudice about that divide. And I've seen her stand up. I've seen my father supporting her through and through. And that spoke a lot about, like, that gave me as a girl growing up the power to stand up, the confidence. Although I have to say that she is much more stronger than I am. But I saw that, and like, that gives me the confidence that, there is no divide. There doesn't have to be any there has to be equity. You need to be inclusive, and I am so glad that I am here in the US, where where we have this platform and we speak about it so openly, and I am able to share my thoughts there. And also a little bit from my mom's dad, who actually had this was he taught me the importance of discipline in life. And he was a very accomplished man. He has won a national award from the president of India. So I respect him. I look up to him. Coming from a small town himself, he achieved a lot. And these two people kind of opened my eyes and actually gave me this lesson that anything is possible with hard work.
What's one thing you learned as an adult that you wish you knew as a kid?
Um, hmm, I I would say uh, I could have had more fun, and could have wished less to grow up and make my own money. So, as a kid, there was a lot of pressure, I would say, or that I put on myself, not necessarily my parents or family, that I need to grow up, I need to have my own job, I need to make my own money, and just in the process, somewhere I lost that, I missed that fun, and I was the older one. So just that, the sense of responsibility came innate to me. So I think, just enjoy every phase of your life. So when you're a kid, enjoy your childhood. It's not going to come back. It's never going to come back. We have enough time to be an adult and earn money and have all those important things in life. It's good to be disciplined, but don't lose that fun.
So, fast forward a few years, you graduated from high school and went to college. Why did you choose to major in engineering?
Um, so I've even as a kid, I've always had this inclination towards, STEM related subjects. So whether it was science or math or tech, and was super all into see understanding what goes on behind, say, products or hardware, things like that. So I always knew, kind of back of the mind, when I was growing up, say in the 10th grade, or like I had to do engineering. And then internet, like I was still in school, was getting very popular, so I had an inclination towards computer engineering, although I ended up in electronics. That, I want to learn more about computers and all of this that's going on. It was, yeah, just evolving, and it was just starting. So was a very exciting space. But I ended up choosing electronics, and there's a very funny reason on why I did that, was because everyone was going for computers, and I was like, I want to do something different. Like I want to do something that not everyone is into, and electronics and instrumentation was something that was coming up. Like this is all about process, input and output, and a closed loop processes. And I was like, that's intriguing. I knew nothing about it, and I just did it because I didn't see the crowd running after that. So I wanted to do something different. So that's exactly how I ended up doing engineering and being in electronics.
What's the most important thing you learned during your undergraduate program?
Um, I would say that when I look back today, I actually want to say what I did not do and I should have done. What I learned was a lot of good stuff, which is understanding how, all the great stuff, electrical engineering, electrics and electronics subjects, and a lot of math too. What I did miss out was actually spending a lot of time with companies. Like, I was running after grades and, learning a lot, um, putting my time a lot into books. But I did some, but very few, like a couple. But in that 4 years of the bachelor's degree that I was getting, I feel I should have gone out and done real life projects with companies, and it would have been more fun. And I made up that gap in my MBA.
What's the perceived worst advice you received in college that has actually turned into useful advice?
Oh, um, I don't know if if there was a worst advice, but 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 I would say, I mean, there was. I would say that prioritizing is something that I'm still learning. I've not gotten great at it. This wasn't any advice, but I tend to take up a lot on my plate, and I did that back then too. But it's important to, and especially now that I'm working, to learn to say no and prioritize. And whatever projects I'm involved in, I want to make sure that it contributes to where I want to go in future. I can do a lot of other stuff, but then I have other roles to play in life too. So that's a life advice that I can constantly keep reminding myself of and can continuously improve upon.
What did you think you wanted to do after graduation?
Oh, it was all about getting a job. For I spent an entire bachelor's thinking about how do I land my first internship? How do I make my money? And how do I live by myself and have fun? Like it was all about that. All my 4 years were spent doing that. And I did end up in a good company. I started my internship with Honeywell. So I'm really grateful for that.
Why did you choose to go back to school and get an MBA in supply chain?
I have to say that I always knew how to do a master's. Why? Because my mom actually has double masters. So, it kind of like it's innate to me that I knew I had to do my master's. Now, what? It could be a master in science because I loved STEM, but I chose MBA. It was mostly like when I was with Honeywell and then Schneider, I did a lot of R&D stuff. And so that gave me an idea of doing more of new product introductions and then talking to suppliers. And incidentally, I also met my husband who did an MBA here, right, from Pittsburgh. So of course, there was an influence from him also to get into MBA. And then I was also doing my supply chain stuff. So it kind of all um, came together, and I then started pursuing MBA, did my GMAT, and got into. But I knew I had to do a master's, and then through my experience in Schneider, I knew I wanted to do it in supply chain.
Was getting an MBA worth it?
It's different. I am an international student, so absolutely worth it for me because the school gave me a chance to learn more about the culture here, make friends here, exposed me to a lot of companies. I actually went through an accent training too. And trust me, I hated it. Like, how do you change your accent? I hated it. But I think it helped me to understand and kind of the language, learn the language better and be able to, annotate. I don't know. I have my own accent, and I'm not unproud of it. I'm good. I like the way I speak. I think I people can fathom what I speak, and I can understand what others speak. But what I'm saying is it wasn't a bad experience like going through those classes. But the best part was I was exposed to companies. I did more projects. I was, presenting myself on different forums, and it is so important when you are international and you know nothing about this country. That was me. But I guess if you were born and brought up here, I don't see the need if you don't feel the need, because it's all about experience. If you have the experience that you got from your bachelor's or maybe your life projects or volunteering opportunities, you don't need to. I did it and it was totally worth it for me. And I would encourage more international students to do it. It's not just about your career, it's also about learning and understanding the culture here with the people around.
Mhm. Best and worst part of your first paying gig after college?
Best and worst part. So this was before, I mean, after bachelor's. The best part is, of course, the money that comes into my bank account every month. So, and I have the autonomy to, spend it on my own. And the best part was actually being able to buy gifts for my parents, like, kind of make them proud. Although I'm sure they were proud of me before that too. But the worst part was the hours, and the hours I had to spend in learning the this whole corporate world and managing. And I have had my own downs and cried, and managed work with some great and not so great bosses. So the learning that comes with it, but then it's a lot of churn, I would say.
Why'd you leave your first gig?
Opportunity to travel to Europe. So being very honest about it, that was my first time getting out of India, actually traveling somewhere, which was in itself very exciting. Of course, I would get paid more, so money is definitely one motivation. But then the best part was I was able to go out and do something absolutely new, hadn't done before, and I was getting more autonomy to work into more new products and new launches. So that, like, the overall package was super exciting for me, and that's exactly why I switched my first job.
So I started my career in indirect and have been in the direct space now only a few months. I'm curious how you got into direct spend procurement.
So as I said, like I did a little bit of managing suppliers when I started working with new products in Snyder, and then I did of course, my MBA, and then I worked for Crane, which is where I got like full blown ownership of commodities and managing it and working with suppliers, doing your strategic analysis, a lot of data crunching, and I'm really thankful that they gave me that platform. I learned a lot immensely, like with the interactions that I've had with suppliers, with my peers who were way more experienced than I was, and learned the tactics of managing. And one lesson that actually stuck with me, Sarah, this is a quote. I'm pretty sure it's very common, that you don't get what you deserve, you actually get what you negotiate for. And so I that lesson has stayed through and through with me, that I've been in supply chain, I've been in procurement and demand planning, in inventory, in logistics and manufacturing. You always have to remember that. on how you are improving your influential skills, your negotiation skills. You're always doing that, no matter where you are.
What would you say is the most difficult part of being in procurement today?
Um, I have to connect it back to circularity too, but I'll start with saying that when we are indirect, and I'm talking about, I would say it's both direct and indirect, but direct a lot more, that it's so important that we understand a strategic focus. I know Anna has also touched a lot about it a little bit, but then understanding what my goal is, and the goal doesn't have to be cost, reducing your costs. That cannot be your sole goal. And this pandemic has taught us the importance of managing risks with your suppliers. Do you have sole source suppliers? Do you have single source suppliers? How are you spread out? What's your plan? What's your strategy? And don't have it just in your Excel sheet or whatever tool that you're managing. Implement it. Go out, talk to your suppliers, build those relationships, and make sure strategically their business goals are aligned with what your business values are, and you understand that. And that is so important, to make sure that you're making a successful partnership. Because remember, you don't deliver to your customers alone. They are a huge, your suppliers, your vendors are a huge, because if they fail, you fail. So they are your partners in actually delivering your business value. I think that's the sooner we understand that, the better it is. I know we have gotten a lot better, especially during the past 2-3 years, in managing our supply base and thinking more about it, leveraging the data, understanding the trends, and making sure you don't treat this as a tactical relationship. It's not.
What is the most difficult part of being in procurement for you?
um Most difficult part, I would say that um it's hard to be in procurement when when I am put in a position and asked to look into costs, but not be able to look on the other aspects or goals that we need to achieve in, when I'm talking to my vendors. So, like for example, I talk a lot about circular supply chains, and procurement plays such a key role in this. If you shift your strategy to see how you can also add goal for your commodity managers, or whoever your procurement team is, where you let secondary materials also be part of your whole material strategy, it'll be great, and you will give um, your whole team a chance to explore something out of the box, rather than just focusing on cost. And the other part also is, we look for so much experience when hiring for procurement people. Like, give people, I understand, you build that whole negotiating skill and whatnot through experience, but there is room to bring in new minds, to people who are switching careers. Bring them in, make be be more embracing about the fact, and then build a more diverse team. I think that's lacking for sure now. We haven't done a lot in that space.
You mentioned careers and giving people an opportunity that maybe don't have a lot of experience in supply chain or procurement to consider people from the outside when you're going through the hiring process. What skills do you think are most important for somebody in procurement? And you can pull on some experiences maybe of things that you have found yourself that are really important.
um for procurement, I would say it's a mix of both soft and hard skills. So, like when I started my career, someone took a chance on me too, right? It's not that I came with a handbook and I knew everything, and so I'm grateful for that opportunity that my boss gave me, and then I learned my way up. But then constantly reading, being up to date with what's going on. Um, Reading those articles, connecting with the right people, and um, when I'm saying soft skills, it's important on how you manage your supplier relationship. It's a partnership. It's like It's like a marriage. It's, yeah, it's not a date that will just end in a few hours. So you have to put time in it. You have to understand them, understand their processes, ask the right questions. And it, what I have always said, you do not have to have 100 years of experience in procurement to excel in procurement. No, you don't. If you have the basic soft skills of building relationships with your vendors, and be able to also do a little bit of data crunching, and leverage data and see what kind of trends you're seeing or whatever historically, like spend time, do some work, and know know your suppliers good. That will be good for anyone to come in and also learn and grow in this field.
How did some of the skills that you just mentioned help you once you transitioned to tactical supply chain? So I'm talking about things like demand planning and production.
Mhm. Oh, it was so, I mean, it's so good that I started in procurement and then moved my way to tactical supply chain and then warehouse and logistics and things like that. Because when I was in, managing the strategic suppliers or the tail spend, it was, it was just about understanding, like looking at the data and the trends and things like that. Now you actually get to see the real world, like pull your sleeves and see what's going on the ground. So you're looking at the day-to-day firefighting that your team is facing, like instead of rather sitting just behind the screens. So that gave me, so it was pretty much seeing all that strategy that you build annually coming into action, and how that impacted the day to day, your associates, your team who actually work day to day in manufacturing and productions. And so that helped me a lot. And one thing that was so important, that I moved from inventory. So when I was, say, leading inventory, which was a tactical too, I was constantly thinking about how do I manage my inventory. I'm talking to finance and accounting and managing that. Suddenly, when you change you change your hats and go into operations, you hear that pain where they're constantly complaining inventory is never enough, because they are arduously every single second managing to get those orders out for our customers. So you see the gap, and that's, it's eye opening why you need shared metrics, why as an inventory manager, managing inventory cannot be my sole goal. Customer on time delivery is a goal, not for just operations or supply chain. It's for marketing, it's for sales. It's so important because they are our customers. So I that this whole perspective would not have come if I wouldn't have moved to different tenets of supply chain.
One of the other things that I know I've struggled with is misalignment of goals. How do you manage misalignment of goals when leading different teams?
And yeah, kind of a little like touched a little bit on that, which is, managing through everyone, every role that you are in supply chain operations, wherever you are, you have some KPIs that you have to deliver to. I hope so, and if you don't, you better get one so you know what you are actually working towards, which should be aligned with your strategic business goals. Like, what's the goal of your business? Growth, sustaining, risk management, what is it? So your KPIs should be aligned with your business goals, but at the same time, it should also look towards what your pain point is. So trust me, if you go to your stand-up meeting, if you go to that Gemba and you are seeing your KPIs are green, you're not measuring the right stuff. You want your KPI boards to show you what's not good, so you can go back and change it. It's not just don't treat it as a fancy reporting tool. But how I manage that across teams is making sure that you as a mid-level senior manager understand that gap, that bridge between why you're doing every day and how it aligns with your businesses. It's important your team understands it too, so they are as passionate about it as you are. And then at the same time, as I said, shared metrics is very important. You do not just focus on where, on your own goal. Always remember, we all together are orchestrating this flow to make sure we deliver to customers. So that customer service level goal has to sit fit in every KPI for every single role that you work on, and then it's easier to talk the same language instead of actually putting your gloves on and ready to fight with each other.
I know something that you and I have spoken about a lot over the past couple of years is sustainability and where this fits into supply chain and procurement. So, would like to have you talk about how you think tech is shaping the world of logistics and its impact on sustainability.
So I have to say this, like, in tech, it doesn't have to be, when we are talking tech, we are not just talking the um, like, a lot of it's not just about AI or robots or things like that. It's also about simple things like, if you can use RPA to see to find things in your data, or doing little things of automation. Like, for example, like, you speak a lot about automation too, working for SourceDay. But um, tech is so important to be embraced right now, especially in logistics. So recently have been more involved in that world, and I'm trying to understand why, and I'm actually learning more about why it's important. And as your company grows, you cannot afford to sit on manual systems to support your business. And that's where it's important that you bring in tech. And if you are seeing redundancy in tasks, you for sure can find a way to automate it. And with logistics, especially, if say, for example, you have your warehouse operations, find ways how you can actually automate some of this stuff that can reduce the burden on your associates. Or, like, just talk about cross-border compliance stuff. There's so much paperwork going on in there. Can we have a common forum, or a portal where you can have all your documents together, things like that. We are still very old school when it comes to logistics and compliance. We can do so much better there.
So, one of the things we talked about a little bit earlier is leadership and managing teams. And I know as you've progressed in your career, you're starting to manage people and become a leader yourself. So, would like to have you share about your worst boss and why he or she was so bad.
um yeah, i uh, I won't say okay. Yes, yeah, I would say it was a boss I didn't really like that much. Not the worst. Like, no one is super super worst, but I would say that in my early stages of my career, I wasn't able to draw a line between when I should stop working and have a life. I didn't actually have a life for a couple years. I was working nonstop, of course, because I was super passionate. Not that I'm not now, but I'm mature. I'm more mature now. So although the person was senior and had a lot of experiences, um, I wasn't able to draw the line between my work hours, and that's not good for anyone at any stage of your career, because then you're not getting a chance to enjoy what you do, and then you become sour, which is not good. It's not good for your team. It's not good for your company. It's not good for you as well. So that was something that wasn't great. But since I was working so much, I kind of got to know so much about the cross teams, like the teams, sister teams, that I grew fast. So it ended up being nice for me, but it wasn't like, I was sour at the point. Like, it was hard for me.
On the flip side, tell me about your best boss.
Oh yeah, I have to, like, yeah, absolutely. The best boss I've had is was so good. I still know him, still friends with him. And why? Because he allowed me to make mistakes, to make my own decisions, gave me the power, didn't micromanage me at all. And that's when you get the power to shape things around you the way you fail, which is fine, but then you learn, and then you learn so much more when you fail. Instead of you telling me exactly what to do, which road to take, I never got a chance to you know see what else could have happened if I failed. So that's why I believe, like, When I am troubleshooting something, as an engineer, when I used to do that a lot, I learned a lot because a lot of things failed, and we tried a lot of things, and this wouldn't work, but maybe something else would. So being the best part of his leadership was allowing giving us and his team, everyone, the ownership and the freedom to make their own decisions and not micromanaging. And I believe everyone should do that, because you will be so surprised with the kind of leaders you will build instead of managers.
So, one of the things that I think about when I think of Sneha is that you juggle a lot of stuff. You have a lot going on. How do you manage being a mom, wife, and a businesswoman and having lots of travel?
Um, um, I think there was an internet glitch there, so sorry about that. But for me, it's I am like, it's a constant guilt that I live with, that I'm not being best at everything. Like, not I'm not the best employee, and I live with that every day, and I have not perfected it. Trust me, I have not. But then what I have learned is I'm being in the present. So when I am with my kids, giving them their undivided attention. When I'm at work, I am working and trying to make the best of the time. I tend to talk to DC a lot because I really admire her for her leadership, and she's a mom too. And she's great. She's great at doing that. But one thing I will definitely share with moms out there is, since you're working, you have the ability to outsource tasks that might not need you, like simple things like getting some help to keep your home organized, or some of your daily chores. If you can outsource it, do not hesitate in doing that. It will give you so much more freedom, so much more time to either be a better mom or a better employee, or whatever you want to do, or maybe actually carve out some time for your own self, right? Self-care, so important. So that's something that I didn't do before. I am doing it so much more now, and it's getting better. So definitely something I would love to share. It was shared to me by one of the women leaders, and I want to share this with others too.
Do you have any scheduling calendar type tips to share about how you structure and manage your days?
Um, I love being organized. I am not the best, or I'm not the best organized persons out there, but I love being organized. um, I think a lot of us know about the Pomodoro technique. A lot of people speak about it. It's pretty much having focused um, time times wherein you focus, say, 30 minutes or 1 hour, whatever that is, and just get that task done. And if you have a few things, like, do not procrastinate. I'm such a big procrastinator, and I'm getting better at it. I promise you, do not. If there is one thing that you can do quick, just do it. Don't leave it for the end of the day or the end of the week. Just do it. It will take you a few seconds and it'll get done. But then planning your days, like, I try to get up early, also because of kids. But getting up early is the best part of your day, because you get your time. And getting up before your kids is even better. I try to do that, but I just feel that mornings are so productive. It's slow, like time doesn't run fast. As the day progresses, I feel like the time is running, and I'm almost like 8 p.m. It's all 8 p.m. and it's bedtime. But in the morning, it's quiet, nice, and you can get some time for your own self.
So, I want to pivot the conversation a little bit to talk about the manufacturing industry.
Hmm.
So, you've spent a lot of your career not only in the direct spend part of the industry, but also in manufacturing.
Hmm.
So, what is the hardest part of being in supply chain working for a manufacturer?
Yes. I think I was talking about this in one more show, but it's about firefighting. It's about the churn that the team, not just you as a manager or as a leader, go through. It's also the team that goes through that, not just day, it's hours. when you are in operations and productions manufacturing, every single minute counts, right? Because you're direct labor and you're working for your customers. And so often you will see that teams or leaders don't take the time to stop, fix the root cause and move, and then for long term, like, do not just do your containment action and move on. Yes, have a containment, but then fix it for good, because I promise you that issue will come back next week again. It will come back and you will be again firefighting. I think that's the most difficult part of working in production manufacturing. And a lot of leaders, and it should come from your senior leadership, where this culture is is encouraged. Yes, today you it might impact an order or two, but if you don't fix it for good, like have your containment and don't fix it for good, you will continue being in this vicious loop on, and it won't stop.
What are some not so obvious trends that you've noticed in manufacturing in the last year or so?
I'm just trying to see if I can, if I'm getting this right, but automation and change management are some of the things that's hard in manufacturing. But I'm seeing that more and more companies are embracing it now. Like, and when I'm saying automation, it's not just about robots, as I said before, simple things. And they are more open to learning about the options and talking to people, getting help from outside. I'm seeing that they are open. It wasn't the state 5 years back. It wasn't like that. They were like, people were more closed, leaders are more closed, and that also is driven by your customers. Because if you're in manufacturing, say for example in oil and gas, and then if it's ain't broken, why fix it, like kind of that mentality. And I get that. But then there are always opportunities where you can innovate and you can change stuff around, not necessarily impacting your customer. And maybe it does. Customers have to come together and be partners with their suppliers and then make things happen, which I think is improving now. It's getting better now, especially with the lessons that pandemic has taught us.
So one of the things that I've noticed now that I'm in manufacturing is that there's a lot of focus on the last mile, but very little talk about the first mile. So maybe you could describe for us what's the difference between those and why the first mile is ignored in manufacturing.
And that's why it's so important for people. And it is because, of course, I mean, just to touch quickly about why last mile is important, because it's impacting your customers, right? You're immediately, always, constantly thinking about ways to get it out the door and in the customer's dock, right? That's the goal. That's what the goal is. And I think the entire company is striving to get that. What we forget in the process is, if you did not start well, if you did not fix it at the first mile, you actually will be seeing those bottlenecks and that domino effect, which will end up being reflecting on your last mile. And that's the gap which not many companies or leaders or organization understand. And simply putting your focus on your last mile is probably going to help you get your products out the door on time, but you're always scrambling to get it done. If you focus on your first mile and you are trying to make sure that you're starting from your vendor, your materials arriving on dock, to managing your whole flow to production and all of that, if you are able to manage those process timely and proactively, you will very less see that impact in your last mile.
Why do you think digital transformation or implementing new technology is so hard in manufacturing?
I think this is pretty close to what I was saying before. Because if being being so risk averse and change averse is the culture that we have lived in for years now. And as I said, it's changing, but we're not there yet, right? Like the pace at which you see the tech growing, those industries, versus the pace that we have seen manufacturing companies growing, is is like a century apart. The growth, the pace that we have been, it'll get better for sure. I promise you. I'm seeing that, but we are still behind, and it is behind because, as I said, like we don't get that partnership from our customers too. Like as I said, our customers also need to become better partners to us as suppliers, and then make this whole change happen, like, and encourage change management. Be more like, if say I should not be, if it's not a life threatening device or product that I am delivering to, I don't understand why shouldn't I look into, say, different methods of manufacturing it or different materials to manufacture it. Like, can I look for off the shelf material? Like things like these smaller things matter. And you're if you make this whole process, change process, so tedious for me, I would always be risk averse and not open to changing things around or automating stuff. So building that partnership with customers has to happen too, and of course has to come with your senior leadership's efforts seen across the market and the customer base.
So when I was at the Sourcing Industry Conference in October,
Mhm.
there was another conference happening at the same time, and a group of them crashed our bonfire fire pit one night. They came over to join us. And the woman I was sitting next to was very high up at I would consider it to be a small to mid-size ice cream company in the Midwest.
Hmm.
And I asked her, what is the number one supply chain challenge for your company today? And she said, we have 25 open positions and we can't fill them.
Okay. I'm not
So
surprised.
what can manufacturers do to attract top talent?
So I am very glad that supply chain has taken a seat at the table, and people are focusing more on overall this org. Before, we didn't have that kind of attention that we needed, but I guess the lessons learned through pandemic has opened a lot of eyes on why supply chain is important. Um, First, as a company, stop writing those job descriptions saying you need 10 plus years of experience for a planner, for a supply chain analyst. No, you don't. So we have to first start and making sure that our job descriptions are really um, what we need. Like, make sure that you spend some effort instead of copying pasting from what that job description looked like from 5 years ago. So that will be important to attract new talent. A lot of people do not apply to jobs when they see that kind of job descriptions. And of course, if you're using ATS, those technologies, these candidates might you just lost some of the potential candidates. um, the other piece, I would say that, look to build if I am given a chance to build a team, and when I'm giving that chance, I look for building a diverse team. So people from different culture, different backgrounds, different experience, different levels of experience. And when you bring all these diverse people together in one room, the ideas that flow in, the brainstorming that happens is it's great. It's just amazing. It's mind blowing. So have if you have the opportunity to build a team, do that. Like, take that effort, take that step. I guess most of us realize the importance of this. I don't think it's rocket science, and people don't understand it. And if they don't, maybe they could take classes to learn more about how diversity helps teams. But doing that will really definitely help the supply chain base grow. I guess there's enough publicity that we have got in the past 2 years why supply chain is important and it's hot, and people still ask some stupid questions about supply chain, which I'm not too offended about. But I guess overall our publicity has gone up, so I'm happy about that.
So final manufacturing related question is about inventory management.
Mm-hmm.
So I know a few years ago, a company that I worked for, they were all about just in time. So no inventory at all. It was built or produced when product or when an order came in. And I know that became really, really popular. And then the pandemic happened. And now I've We have clients that are stockpiling 18 months of parts and materials because they're so paranoid that they're not going to be able to get product, which causes big challenges, especially for small companies when you don't have space or cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
So what advice do you have for manufacturers struggling with inventory management or people in supply chain figuring out how to help their companies?
Yeah, that's it's one topic that we probably can just speak on and on. There's so many things that we can do. Just in time was so cool, such a cool topic, and especially because this is part of the lean concept, and we talk a lot about that. And but what it does, it puts a lot of pressure on your suppliers too, which we are not very cognizant about, especially the big companies out there. um, so yes, we are just in time, but that might not just be just in time for your upstream supply chain. So not many are always cognizant of the fact. This is why, like, when the whole talk about circular supply chains or sustainable supply chains came up, we talk a lot about nearshoring, because then your impact on overall supply chain, that whole domino effect goes down, because you have predictable lead times. Even if you have like some breakdowns or issues in supply chain, you're able to recover faster. And of course, overall the impact on the globe goes down. So it's a win-win for everyone. It is not. And what is important is, in this process, people are saying, oh, it's very expensive, sourcing locally. But have the companies taken the effort to look at the total landed cost? I don't think so. If you look at the total landed cost, if you really calculate the cost that you spend, it's not just material costs, it's about the logistics. Maybe you looked at it, you did not look at the tariffs that you pay for any kind of tooling that you purchase at your suppliers, anything outside. So there's a lot of tariffs and logistics costs and material costs. And also, don't forget your opportunity. Every time you lose your customer order, you lose that opportunity cost too. So all of this together builds your total landed cost. So look into that before you make your sourcing decisions. It's not just you have to think about all your options and all the risks that comes with it. And so for inventory management, that's most of my inputs these days are looking into your nearshoring options. And then try to be lean if you can, but then if you reduce your lead times from your suppliers, you reduce your lead times to your customers. So both downstream and upstream gets better in this process. So it has to start with that overall strategy. So then you can look into the data and then understand what your replenishment model and whatnot can be.
You mentioned the word nearshoring. What does that mean?
Nearshoring could be some shoring, sourcing from suppliers closer to where your manufacturing facilities are. It doesn't have to be in the same state, in the same city. It could be in a nearby country, instead of bringing um, your grapes from like making your grapes travel all around the world. You can actually try and see if you can find someone source it locally. And well, of course, fruits is not the greatest example because they are seasonal. But if you can find suppliers closer to where your manufacturing base is, you reduce your variability in the process overall.
So a couple more supply chain questions, and then we'll close out with a spitfire round where I'm going to ask you a few personal questions and you'll answer with a word or phrase. So one of the things that I think makes you stand out amongst all the other supply chain people that I talk to and interact with every day is that you're really strategic. So how can supply chain professionals become more strategic like you?
So I have to say that like when I started, when we discussed this before also about procurement, we have to be focused and cognizant about what our business goals are. So when it doesn't matter if you are in procurement, if you are in inventory, if you're doing manufacturing, you need to understand what's important for your company. Is it delivering to your customers in short time, your USP, your unique selling point, or is it delivering to your customer at lower cost, your unique selling point, or is quality your unique selling point? So understanding that overall goal, or what your brand value is, and then aligning your goals with it is important. Yes, you have tactical stuff going on day in day out, but then in the end you need to make sure that even for your own career and growth, you have to understand how do you bring those gaps together. And when you do that, you actually start delivering on a day to day, on a day to day basis, and then automatically that fuels your growth and your understanding and your learning across the group as well, and you help your cross functional teams bridge that gap when you are in your Gemba walks and talking to them as well. So keeping bridging that your metrics to overall what the business goals are, and bringing it together, and it doesn't have to be just about your own team. It also is about including your suppliers in that conversation. Do not leave them out. They are your business partners.
How should supply chain professionals better leverage technology?
If you see redundancy in your processes, look for tech to change it. If you see a process that is being done by someone on and again and again, and there's no value, it's like entering data. You need to start looking for options where you can automate it. It could be Excel, it could be Power BI, it could be Tableau, it could be RPA, or it could be robotics or AI or whatever that is. But trust me, no, automation is, and using technology doesn't have to be a complex deal. You can start small and you can still see a lot of savings coming your way every day.
All right, so I'm going to throw 5 questions at you. I want you to respond with the first word or phrase that comes to mind for each.
Mm-hmm.
Accomplishment you are most proud of?
Not many know, but I have a patent in my name. I filed a patent in India, so I'm really proud of it, because been innovating constantly every day in my life, and I'm proud of that accomplishment.
Quality you admire most in yourself?
Kindness. I know I'm very kind, and I am proud of it. Being kind is the new cool.
What's your dream?
Well, my dreams change, Sarah, like a lot, but depending on where I am. But overall, I am a good human being, and if I can, see my kids become good human beings, I would say that would be a life well spent.
Biggest pet peeve?
So many. But I'll share two. Personally, if not being punctual is my biggest. So I come across people, a lot of people who are not very punctual, who do not respect time. I do not like working with those people. And professionally, my biggest pet peeve is, of course, people not being open to change. And that's I love working towards making changes, but then I see a lot of people very closed and not being open to changes. So yeah.
Favorite thing to do in your downtime?
Well, I should say sleep, because I don't get enough sleep. But yeah, I mean, just cuddling my kids. I love doing that's the best part of the day.
And favorite dish to cook?
Oh my God. If my husband is hearing this, he's gonna throw me out, because I do not cook. I do not cook at all. Um, but I really don't cook. I cannot, like, I love eating a lot of favorite dishes that my husband makes. So I'm not gonna lie. I don't cook, so I'm a bad cook. Even if I try making something for him, he's very kind to say it's okay because I barely cook. But yeah, so nothing.
Well, Sneha, thank you very much for coming on the show today. If people want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do so?
LinkedIn, absolutely. Drop me a note. I am always very, very active there. I might take a day to come back to you, but I promise I will. And I'm open to connecting with everyone and learning from everyone.
Join our next show, March 23rd at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be coming to you live again from LinkedIn.
Thank you.